Good afternoon, Mr. Hashler.
Good afternoon, Darko.
Good,
How's it going?
good morning at your time. How are you?
Yes, 10 a.m.
How are you?
Great, great. It's
Busy?
great to meet you. Yeah, very busy. That's for sure.
Okay, I will not take a lot of your time. Thank you. Uh, can we start?
Yes.
Let's start with latest discovery that I will quote you. We documented the first ever direct evidence that
Yes.
mRNA vaccine genetic code integrates into the human genome. It's a case of a young woman, 30 years old, with bladder cancer. And what was found is that Pfizer vector genetic material integrated into chromosome 19 in this tumor. What can you explain this for us, please?
Yes. So is this already being recorded?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So what this is this is basically serves as what's called a sentinel report or a warning report because it is the first documented evidence of genomic integration of mRNA vaccine genetic material. Now we have to do massive investigations. We have to do more sequencing of people with turbo cancers to really find out how many people this affected. But so let's talk about our specific report. And yeah, so this woman was 31 years old and developed stage 4 turbo bladder cancer.
It's shocking.
Shortly following 3 mRNA shots, right? So this is unheard of, stage 4 bladder cancer in a young woman. This is very, very rare. And so that led us to want to look and do some molecular profiling, some genetic sequencing. And so we looked in her circulating tumor DNA. We looked at her protein, her proteomic excretions. We looked at basically everything we could look at. And we found in the circulating tumor DNA, in chromosome 19, we found a 20 base pair match to the Pfizer plasmid DNA sequence. So, yeah, it's a lot of confusing words, but I want to put it in layman's terms. I want to explain this so it's easy to understand. So, Pfizer, right? Pfizer and Moderna, they use DNA plasmids. They basically look like circles, but it's DNA at the manufacturing plants to make the mRNA. Part of this plasmid at the factory contains what's called the spike open reading frame region, where it basically helps churn out the mRNA to encode for the spike protein, right? So it was part of that spike open reading frame that perfectly matched in this patient's chromosome 19 in this tumor DNA, right? So when you have a 20/20 base pair match of a host and an external reading, there's about a 1 in a trillion chance that was just an anomaly, that was just a coincidence. So it's very, very almost impossible it was just a coincidence. And so this is very worrisome.
So one thing is that the investigations will follow, but another thing is what you think. Can we make a possible conclusion that vaccine is guilt for this bladder cancer?
Yes, well, particularly in this case, yes, this vaccine, we can say with almost certainty it was from these mRNA shots. And I say that because it corroborates hundreds of other case reports also documenting aggressive rare cancers shortly after these shots. It was also, in this particular case, in our case, it was accompanied by genomic dysregulation. And when I say that, I mean her tumor surveillance genes were literally turned off, right? So she had so many like thousands of genes were basically dysregulated. Genes related to DNA repair were shut off, and so she was getting these double strand breaks in the DNA. So when it can't repair itself because those genes are dysfunctional, that means that this external genetic material, such as from the vaccine, can kind of get into that broken DNA. So that's what appears to have happened. But yeah, cancer after vaccines, it's certain now, because we also had a population study come out last month that followed 300,000 Italians.
Italians, yes.
Yeah, for 30 months.
Can you tell us more about this investigation in Italia?
Yes, this was major. So yeah, 300,000 Italians, 30 months. They separated the COVID vaccinated group compared to the unvaccinated group. The vaccinated group had 23% higher risk of any type of cancer hospitalization. They had 50%, about 30 to 50% increased risks of breast cancer, of colorectal cancer, of leukemia, of lymphoma, right? So all these cancers were just increased in the vaccinated group. Cancer hospitalizations. So these were kind of more invasive type of cancers as well. So yeah, we know these shots are carcinogenic at this point in time.
Well, please tell me, it was known that spike protein is toxic. How even it was possible to make this kind of vaccine who will instruct the body to produce spike protein? In ordinary words, to instruct the body to produce poison.
Yeah, that was a very bad idea, right? This is the stupidest idea in history. There should not have been any Nobel Prizes given out for such a travesty that has caused immense harm. But you're right. I don't know why they thought this was a good idea. I don't know why, instructing your vital organ systems to produce a synthetic, toxic, non-human manufactured protein. I don't know how anybody thought that would be even effective in the first place, but yet, better alone, safe. There's no possible way that could be safe. You're just basically inducing autoimmunity in your body system-wide.
Let me go back to this young woman. You said it, but I will ask you again that her immune system was literally shut down. How it was possible?
So if this mRNA, we don't know if this transponded from this integration event, right, the shutdown of these genes. We think it probably did. So what would happen is if you get such an insertion of, Moderna or Pfizer genetic code in your own DNA, that's just going to create all sorts of havoc. And we have to remember chromosome 19 is vital for immune function, right? It's many genes related to immunological abilities are in chromosome 19. So you don't want a synthetic non-human genetic code in this chromosome.
Spike protein
so that
is going into that chromosome 19, which is responsible for immune system. So that's the key of that's the answer of my question.
Yeah. Chromosome 19 is one of the most gene-dense chromosomes in out of all the other chromosomes. It's very important, right? It's short. It's very short, but it's one of the most dense, and so you don't want anything to get in there. That's for sure.
Okay, then that means that if I understand you well, a lot of countries which have the biggest percent of vaccinated people, citizens with Western vaccines are in danger now.
Yes, I would say people who receive the mRNA products specifically, we need risk stratification to see who's going to be at high risk for these cancers and for the cardiac events and the neurological events. And we have to start seeing, is this material, how much people is this genetic material still in? How many people still have the spike protein still circulating in their blood? All right, we don't know the answers to any of these, but there are ways to see who will be at a high risk and who will not. The only way to do this would be to issue guidance to physicians, basically worldwide, on how to screen for these pathologies, because it's very serious, right? We can't just keep ignoring what has happened and how, 70% of the global population received an experimental injection. It's very bad.
It it will be a worst idea in the world to ignore this and to let it just go. Because I was listening to you, I was listening Mr. Peter McCauley, I was listening Dr. Patrick Shiong, and all of you are saying that we are in an epidemic of cancer. Something similar is happening in our country. Is there a close connection with vaccines, or is something else happening now?
There is a very, very close connection to the mRNA shots. Like I mentioned earlier, we have population data. Now we have experimental mechanistic data, all supporting that these shots are carcinogenic. But there are other things, right? We do also have, the infection. Some say the spike from the infection may also, it'll exhaust the immune system, right? And when you have an exhausted immune system and hyperinflammation, that can also contribute to cancerous activity. So we have that, and we have to remember that was manufactured, again, synthetic, made in the Wuhan lab and University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, right? These are not natural pathogens. And so we have all that. Yeah, go on.
You are sure it was not natural?
Yes.
I'm
well,
convinced,
at least
I'm convinced that it's not natural, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medicine person.
yeah, it's not natural. I mean, at least here in America, I mean, the White House acknowledges it was from a lab at this point. All of our intelligence agencies now assess that. So it's accepted here. It was manufactured, and it appears that is very much so the case.
And nobody will be responsible for that.
Yeah, nobody's been held responsible for unleashing chaos among the world. You would think, they're still running free. They're still giving talks at universities like nothing happened, but millions have been injured or died, and so people need to start being held accountable for this debacle. But there's another thing that could be contributing to this cancer and all this other stuff since 2020 is, I don't know if they did this in your country. Did they install 5G towers?
Yes.
Yeah, so they did this globally around 2020, a little before, a little after. And we now have over 50 studies showing very deleterious biological effects on biological systems with these 5G frequencies, right? So it's very bad for living beings. This is not a good thing to erect globally, and so we don't know what it's doing to people. We have no clue what these new EMF load is doing to human beings. No clue. We know it's bad, but we don't know how now it's ever present in the environment.
Yes. Let me ask you something another. Can the spike protein from the virus or from the vaccine produce a new wave of autoimmune disease?
Yes. Because again, it literally exhausts your immune system. It exhausts your T cells. It's not something that can be handled easily because it is synthetic, manufactured, and so it's very persistent in the body, which can't really clear it. So it's trying to clear it for so long. It's causing tissue damage, right? It's causing all this oxidative stress. It's doing so many bad things to the body. And so, yeah, from both the vaccine and infection, it appears that, yeah, this can induce autoimmunity. But particularly from the vaccine, we think there's a much higher risk from the vaccine because your own body is literally producing
For how
the
long
spike.
the body will produce spike?
The body will produce it, and it appears indefinitely in some individuals. So far, I mean, we have people, we're testing, we're doing these case reports. There's an individual, he got myocarditis, he got a pulmonary embolism after these shots. We're testing him now 3 years later, over 3 years later, and he still
Still
has
produce.
circulating spike protein in his blood. He still has DNA fragments from the shots detectable in his skin. So this stuff just went everywhere in this guy. He's still producing it. And so, yeah, there is no off switch. We don't know if it turns off in people eventually. We don't know really the answers to any of these questions. Nobody's studying it. But when we look in some people, they're still making this stuff.
Huh. Well, it's not a good news. You said that genome fragment from spike is going into chromosome 19. How, in long term, what is the meaning of this? Can he change the human race into something else? I mean, if you are going to intervene in human DNA, so you are not the same person anymore.
Yeah, technically, you have become a chimeric, a chimera with part synthetic DNA installed. Unfortunately, that's what it appears is technically the case. Now, what are the consequences of that? You're not going to grow a third arm. You're not going to grow, extra toes. But you will just have dysfunctional. Your body will not function as it should be functioning, and many things, such particularly with the immune system, will be severely dysregulated, and you'll face elevated risks of these extremely rare cancers. And so it's definitely, yeah, you don't want that in there at all. And then it can transfer to offspring, most likely. So if you have a baby, you have this installed in your genome, your baby will probably have that sequence as well, and will
Yeah.
also face catastrophic consequences. And we're seeing those signals now. Here in America in 2025, babies are dying at a 77% excess rate in 2025. So they're just dying in droves. Nobody claims to know why. This is probably one of the reasons.
So it's a big disaster. I can make a conclusion, but is there a way the body can is there a way that we can clean the body from spike?
Yeah, there are some proposed interventions, and one of them is we published a paper on this. It's by Dr. Peter McCullough protocol-based spike detoxification. It's just 3 enzymes: nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin. All of these come from foods, right? They're very safe, but they have shown experimentally to literally degrade the spike protein, like literally just dissolve it. And so, and these do reach systemic circulation when you ingest them. So we believe it is helping the body kind of bust the spike out. As well, we have multiple case reports documenting improvements in vaccine injury syndromes with this protocol.
Together, 3 of them, or separately? Not
It's all three. All three.
All 3.
Yep.
Turmeric as in capsules or natural?
You want the concentrated or standardized turmeric with high levels of curcumin in it. So curcumin will be the most active ingredient that you want that shows this potent antiviral activity. But just normal turmeric, honestly, will also be good because then you get the full spectrum of compounds in this spice. So yeah, either or is fine. But if you take pills, particularly, get one with high levels of curcumin in it. And
for instance,
yeah.
when you are saying high level, you mean on milligrams? Can you tell me? 500?
Yeah, so yeah. Usually turmeric capsules are 500 milligrams a capsule, right? But sometimes none of the good stuff you want in high concentrations is in that 500 milligrams. So you want like 450 milligrams of that capsule to have curcumin, the most potent active ingredient that shows all this promise. So you want to look for standardized extracts of turmeric.
Or maybe 1 teaspoon is enough?
Yeah, or you can just take turmeric itself and you get the full spectrum of compounds
With
there.
a little black pepper or something.
Yeah, no, just as a spoonful. That'll be fine. But so curcumin's most helpful for the inflammatory aspects. Where the other ones come in, nattokinase is actually the most important of the three because that's the one that shows direct degradation of spike proteins and busting open of these spike-induced blood clots, right? So this one shows the most promise. So you definitely want nattokinase if you're going to do this protocol.
500 milligrams is enough of nattokinase?
Yeah, usually it's in functional units. FU is the units they give on these. So usually it'll be like 4,000 functional units. It would be the dose up to 8,000 functional units. Remember, these are very small capsules for this because it's very potent. And it can increase risk of bleeding because it is a blood thinner. Mm-hmm. It does kind of inhibit some clotting activities.
So be careful if you are taking aspirin or something like that.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And how familiar you are about effects of ivermectin and fenbendazole on cancer?
I am very positive about that, very hopeful about that, because there's now a systematic review study looking at ivermectin in cancer. Not only did they find it safe in cancer patients, but it has about over 20 anti-cancer mechanisms, distinct anti-cancer mechanisms experimentally, and we've seen large numbers of anecdotal reports of remission with this antiparasitic. But fenbendazole then comes in, and there was a recent study by Dr. William Mackis and colleagues, and he literally documented 3 cases of remission, total remission, or near remission in 3 stage 4 cancer patients with a fenbendazole protocol. So these people had a very advanced cancer, it spread everywhere, and then he gave them this fenbendazole, and it was in combination with some other stuff in these patients, but all of a sudden these tumors just vanished. Yeah, and so that's documented in the literature now. So lots of promise with these.
Is it effective on lung cancer and breast cancer?
One of the cases in that study was breast cancer. I'm not sure about lung cancer, but it appears the effect of these is unpredictable. Nobody knows exactly.
Nobody exactly knows still. Yes.
Yeah. But there's so many reports now, so many case reports, and so much evidence supporting its anti-tumor effects. It's undeniable it's doing something good, and that's why we need large-scale trials immediately to assess the efficacy.
Now let me ask you something else. Mr. Den Bosch from Belgium, he said that vaccinated countries will face a new wave of COVID virus, and he will be stronger than the last time. What do you think about that? Is that possible?
So you're saying the vaccinated will suffer the most
Yeah.
from the next COVID wave, and the unvaccinated will be stronger?
That was his
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely plausible. It's definitely plausible. I don't know for sure, but it
Okay.
appears that if you have exhausted your immune system with so many booster shots, um, and you have all sorts of this dysregulation going on and immune imprinting and all sorts of things, yeah, you could definitely face a higher risk of more severe illness from new variants.
Now something else. You don't need to answer this. I want to ask you about last press conference of President Trump and Health Secretary Kennedy about connection between Tylenol and autism. What you think about that? You don't
Yeah.
have to answer if you don't want.
No, I'll answer. I'll answer for
Okay,
sure.
thank
Yeah.
you.
So, yeah, Tylenol and autism, it's a complex subject. Many people here think they're just blaming Tylenol when actually it's the vaccines. We believe that is partial truth. Now, so with Tylenol, their evidence they relied on, there's about 8 studies that link Tylenol to prenatal Tylenol use. So pregnant women taking Tylenol and autism risk. There's 8 studies that show that. Now, not one of those studies accounts for vaccination. Not one of them mentions the word vaccine, and because we have to remember, a lot of the time pregnant women are taking Tylenol is because they just got vaccines and they have a fever. And the same goes with kids, right? When kids get a fever, they get in America, they get like over 20 doses by age 1. So they're popping Tylenol like candy. The mothers are giving them Tylenol. And the thing about Tylenol is it shuts down or impairs your detoxification pathways. It lowers your glutathione levels as your body processes this. So if you lower your shields down and then accompanied by the battery of vaccines, that actually is what induces this neurological damage in autism. It's not just Tylenol. Tylenol appears to just be serving as an amplifier of risk to autism, but vaccines appear to still be the central trigger.
Okay, then I will not waste your time anymore. If you want to add something.
Oh, that's it. That's it. We covered good stuff. That's for sure.
Thank you very much. My greetings to Mr. McCauley, and I hope I will see you again with good news, not this news like this investigation of bladder cancer and that Italian investigation.
Right. Yeah, we will have good news next time. Hopefully we will. And so, but thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so much also. See you next time and thank you again. Bye bye.
Thanks. Talk to you.